So today's episode of The Plug, definitely not the sexiest topic I've ever covered on the channel, but I do sneak a wrist rest into the B-roll from time to time, so I do get asked about them every once in a while. So today we're going to take a look at a few different kinds, different materials, different price points, different feature sets. We'll look at some stuff I am using right now, some stuff I've used in the past. We'll talk about how to properly use a wrist rest, why you would want to, the pros and cons of doing so, and why I never do any length of typing or gaming without one. You ready? Let's go! I want to thank Dashlane for sponsoring today's video. Dashlane is something I personally use every day. It's a password manager that helps keep track of all your different logins, your passwords, autofill info, even stored payment methods, and a built-in VPN. Be honest, how many times do you avoid logging into an account on your desktop because thanks to face unlock or fingerprint, you forgot that password a long time ago? How many times do you have to do a password reset to pay that phone bill? Dashlane makes all that anxiety go away, and with the premium account, it can sync across all your devices, making sure you can access what you need to, when you need to, on the first attempt. Online security is serious stuff. The average person has around 80 different passwords to juggle. You know if you're that person out there that uses that same weak password for everything. Maybe you store your passwords in your browser and you feel like that's safe. Do some research on that. No imagination, Dashlane can even create and remember totally random passwords for you. Plus, they run insane encryption and detection systems. The user data they store is all decentralized. They never even see your master password and they never sell your data. You can try Dashlane for free on your first device at dashlane.com/badseed. Plus, they know how many people are working from home right now, so you can save 25% off a premium membership using code BADSEED. Go check them out. Yo, I'm Brian P. You're watching BadSeed Tech, and on today's episode of The Plug, we're looking at a few different wrist rest options from Glorious PC Gaming Race, Razer, Wooting Keyboards, and Aura Mech. Let's talk a bit first about why you'd even want to use something like this, as even though some of them can look really nice on the desk, it's not just a cosmetic thing at all. This was something I started using out of necessity. As I get older, ergonomics become much more of a focus, because like overworking any muscle or joint, you're going to start to feel it, it's going to stop you from performing your best, and if you continue to do repetitive motion tasks while you should be recovering, you're going to run the risk of permanent injury. Take a second to look at your hands, like really look at them. Really think about what your WASD hand is doing consistently, your mouse hand is doing consistently. It's the same motions over and over again. We're not really built for that. If you're super young, this might sound dumb, like some real okay boomer territory, but from experience, I can tell you, if you want to keep grinding a few hours a day, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now, you need to start taking care of yourself now. As a dude who's probably old enough to be your dad, like a way cooler version of your dad, but still, we don't outgrow gaming anymore. It's not something you quit 6 months ago when you get an amazing girlfriend, make a shitload of money, and you're buying a house this spring. If it's an important part of your life now, it's still going to be an important part of your life way later in life, like when you have your own kids someday. And your hands are your money makers, and potentially also your girlfriend. So treat them right. Starting off with the Glorious PC Gaming Race, this one is simply called the Wrist Rest, and it's our most budget option of the day with the 60% or what they call the compact version starting at $23.99. It comes in two different versions, both their standard like Lycra spandex cloth with the white logo screen printed on, which means you can feel it like it's raised, as well as their stealth version, which sports the black logo and it's made from the same material. They also have two different thicknesses, 25mm and what's stated as 17 on the site, but is 13 on the box. I've mostly used the 25mm version, and it's still my personal preference, but it's all going to be in the angle of your wrist. I've run this one on one desk or the other for about a year, so it does the job pretty well. I only have a couple complaints. One, at least on the white version, if it's hot, summertime, your arm will stick to the logo. You can definitely feel it. Two, once this thing starts to show use, which is going to be a combo of sweat and dead skin cells, you're going to want to wash this thing. The problem here is that the base feels like it's maybe cardboard, and I would have paused before I tossed this in the washing machine. It may totally be able to make it through, but it doesn't really inspire the confidence that it would. So if you move up to $30, you can check out their wooden models as well, and they look really nice. They also feature something I personally think is pretty important in a hard rest, and that's this taper right here. A padded rest will let you settle in just fine, but in a hard rest, I personally find this to be pretty important for ergonomics. On the topic of size, you'll find the majority of these rests come in either 60 TKL or full size. Full is pretty obvious, but you may find yourself wondering which way to go if you're using a 65 or 75% board. The answer? Always go bigger. While this may look a touch off aesthetically, you'll appreciate the extra room along the edges of the board, especially if you have a wider frame, personally, like wider shoulders, because you likely type with your arms angled in like so. I can type like this, but I literally have to tuck my arms in hard against my sides, and that alone causes me more discomfort just trying to hold that position. So TKL is going to be your choice for most boards in between a 60 and a TKL. One thing to consider is how the front edge of your board terminates. Looking at these options from Razer, the front side is beveled in so they can sit a little closer to certain boards. This has a lot to do with your actual hand size, as I like my rest to be pulled back a bit from the board. You actually want it right on like the heel of your palm. The big downside to the Razer offerings is that they currently only come in the full-size variety. The standard version in leather red goes for $19.99, and while it does have a tendency to get a bit sticky in hot weather, it's also really easy to keep clean as you just wipe it off. The challenge with these is in the areas where the padding meets the plastic frame. It's a really good place for dirt and crumbs and whatever to hide. They also offer a premium version for $34.99 that's got a spandex top as well, but it also has like a cooling gel layer, similar to what you find in some of their headphone ear cups. This sounds like a huge gimmick, but I assure you it's not. It is tougher to keep clean, but it's one of my favorites in hot weather. The cooling gel is something you can actually feel, and this is evidenced by the fact that these are sold out like consistently. In terms of cleaning this, I would hand wash this in the sink and allow it to air dry. I would avoid the washing machine or the dishwasher with this one. My only wish for these is that they offer these in a TKL size. Otherwise, solid offering. Next, we've got a couple new options from the fine gents over at Wooting Keyboards, makers of the Wooting 1 and 2 analog keyboards. Priced at $27.99 and $29.99 respectively. These come in either TKL or full size and are 100% silicone. Firm too, not weird and squishy like a cell phone case or your mom. The beauty here is in the simplicity. This feels like something you buy once and it's gonna last you forever. It's crazy durable. And because it's silicone, you can clean this thing super easy too. Normally just wiping it off with water would do the trick, but you deadass can probably put this thing in the dishwasher. Top rack only. These come in two colors, black and midnight blue. Wooting is a good guy company. The packaging here is low footprint and it's eco-friendly, plus the silicone material is BPA free and it's got some natural benefits like being hypoallergenic if you have sensitive skin, and it's hygienic because bacteria can't fest on the material itself. The only downside to these is that they can get a bit like linty, like they attract dust and pet hair, but they're so easy to keep clean that kind of negates the issue for me. Last up today, we're looking at a couple rests that look really good in the footage. I mean really good. These are the new rest offerings from Aura Mech, and they're about as class as it gets. I've always been curious about these epoxy resin models as I see stuff that looks like this pop up on drop from time to time. They're at the upper end of the price spectrum as far as wrist rests go, but they're absolutely gorgeous and really durable. They'll range from like 60 to 70 bucks depending on which size you get, and because Aura Mech knows keyboards, these are available in just about every size you could possibly get a keyboard in. These are all handmade and it's like a 7-step process, so there will be little inconsistencies here, polish marks, edges that aren't quite exact, little things that remind you that these aren't stamped out of a machine in some factory somewhere. Doesn't hurt either that they generally have a desk mat to match the rest. I think this bloodthirsty colorway is on group buy currently, and I know they've got plans to expand these at some point. They do have some little rubber bump-on feet that come with, and the final versions of these will likely be a bit shorter in overall height to figure in the added height of the feet, because without these, even though it's a really clean look, they're very slidey on the desk, especially on a desk mat. So are there any downsides to using a wrist rest? That's a good question. One of the biggest issues is that they're called a wrist rest, and that would suggest that you rest your actual wrist right on there. No, it's intended to rest the palm of your hand right in front of your wrist, and if you can, actually hover above it just a touch. It's generally just designed to keep you from doing this and to help you achieve a more neutral position. Before you opt for something like this, it's important to address your seating posture and your desk height first. As with any peripheral, your own human ergonomics as well as any existing injuries or conditions specific to you play a big role. For me, when I switched to keyboard and mouse, it was very apparent that I needed a wrist rest. For users with existing carpal tunnel stuff, you may find using a rest actually puts more pressure on a nerve. Obviously not for you. You may also not need this based on the angle of your keyboard or whether or not it's low profile by design. And some boards include stock wrist rests that come with. Like what they've done here with the Digma Razer is they've actually integrated the rest into the frame. I love this keyboard. The review's coming up on this thing very soon. Razer includes some with some of their models that are actually pretty effective. But like from Corsair, these low profile, like all plastic designs that snap in the bottom, I don't get a lot of use out of these. You may see mouse rests out there as well. I could see this for work use, I guess, but as a gamer, I'm not a big believer in these because I don't really want anything restricting or interfering with my mouse movement, and I also feel like it causes me to actually rely on my lateral wrist motion more, which really does not work for me personally due to a previous break. I just can't see this being good for anybody long term, to park all the mobility of your arm and rely completely on your wrist and your fingertips. No matter which type or what brand you go with, I do strongly recommend you experiment with a keyboard wrist rest if you're not using one. It's not designed to make you a better player, but it does allow me to play for longer sessions at each sitting, and hopefully will allow me to play longer throughout the course of my lifetime with less risk for any kind of joint related injuries. As always, links down in the description for everything we talked about today. Any questions, hit me in the comments or drop by the Discord. And that's it for this time. I'm Brian P. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button, hit that sub button, and until next time, stay up.